Charles, you have the floor, sir. You have the number 1 pick in the 2023 non-quarterback draft. Where are you going?
I'm going to go ahead and take the most underrated, not underrated. Let me start over. The most underpaid non-quarterback in the history of the NFL, Aaron Donald, 99. Don't care what the cost is. I know he's at, low end starter quarterback money at this point, I guess. At 30 million.
It's 30 million average over the next 2 years before he hits free agency.
That's right. And we're still handing him a blank check at age 33 too. Look, I don't think there's really been that big of a decline in his play, which is kind of crazy when you look at how the Rams defense kind of dwindled around him. And this year, it's going to be the ultimate Hercules feat, because if you go up and look at that depth chart, my brain's all over the place. If you go ahead and look at that depth chart and you show a common fan the Rams depth chart on defense, the only player they might be able to name is Aaron Donald.
Oh yeah.
And that's not a joke, especially when you look at specifically just the front seven. Maybe you can get some, SEC fan that's going to get Darion Kendrick out there at cornerback, but this is the Atlas feat that he is going to have to take on as he enters, the sort of the end of his career. But I think he's still up for it. And that to me is enough high praise to get the first pick in this draft.
It was hard. I looked at his, I was just trying to look up his age. So I looked at his Pro Football Reference. I tweeted this, and then you just look at his accolades. It's just all pro, defensive player of the year votes, And it's hilarious. I could have just tweeted that. And everyone goes, "Oh, Aaron Donald." It's that's what it is. I like the Atlas nickname. That's actually pretty good for him, because he is going to have to carry the world tomorrow,
next year, buddy. Tomorrow, I'm in the same. My brain is frying the same way that Chuck says. So here's my counter. If I'm playing devil's advocate, last year was the first year those accolades did not happen. Okay, he played 11 games. He got hurt for the first time in his career. How hurt is probably depending on how bad the Rams season was going, so we could acknowledge that. You will get 32, 33, and 34, and he will cost $30 million a year, and he's coming off his first quote-unquote down season that he's had in his career.
And he was still third in defensive player of the year votes.
So. That was 2021.
That was 2021?
Last year. Yeah. I'm talking about last year.
Last year? Oh, okay. Excuse me.
His down year in 2021, he still led the league in pressures and had 12.5 sacks. So that wasn't really a down year. But we are coming off the first non-all-pro, first-team all-pro season he has had since 2015. And he's getting older, and he's very, very, very expensive. Those are my only arguments against it.
Oh, no,
I think it's a fair pick.
We're going to make it up. We're going to make up for it very soon. Just watch.
He's gonna get cheap after this. I love it.
Just watch.
Just like the Rams defense. Yeah, you get cheap all around them.
That's right. All right. So I'm not upset about this, because I was not going to take Aaron Donald with my pick, even if he was probably there. So the top 2 guys that I would have had on the board, I now get one of them, and I am very excited about it. Nate, where are you going with this?
I want to take one of them just to piss you off. I'm down to 2 guys right now. Really 3, if I'm being honest, but really this is nice. I'm going to go, I'll tell you the one I'm not going to go. I'm not going to go Justin Jefferson, even though I want to so badly. I really, really do. I was hoping that Chuck would maybe take this other guy, and so I could just take him, because I like Justin Jefferson a lot, and he's dominant, all that stuff. But I'm going to go with Micah Parsons.
Yeah, it's a clear second choice to me.
Yeah, in his 3rd year, all pro, his first 2 years, he's an actual dominant force. I hope someone could take the mantle of Aaron Donald, but it's really hard. I know they play different edge and D tackle and all that, but just the dominant defensive force on the front. There's a few of these guys in the league, but I just think Micah Parsons at his age, he's still cheap for a couple years, cost controlled, all that, but just a down-to-down basis, just the like I'll say again, that dominant force. You feel him on every snap. He makes everybody else around him better. Hopefully he's going to never be an off-ball linebacker ever again, because that is definitely making a plus player a C+ player. Just watched the Packers game last year where the Cowboys played. But him as an edge rusher, him as a pass rusher, him as going against the run, him as a knifing inside on games, him on blitzes where they line him up with Dan Quinn, will get creative with him. He's just incredible. Just one of these players that's incredibly fun to watch. And I think he'll just continue his dominance for a long, 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 long time. And it's already been dominant in his first 2 years.
You could make an argument that even if we didn't include contracts, if it was just the best players for the next 3 years, that you could make Micah Parsons the number 1 pick in this draft.
Yeah. I don't know. I've never really talked to you about Micah Parsons, Chuck. You like him, though, I'm sure.
But... Oh, yeah. Well, see, I remember when he was coming out of the draft, I was like, you guys talk about this guy's an off-ball linebacker, but he's strong as any offensive lineman and runs a 4.3. Let's see what happens. And to me, it's the strength with him, because I know they were talking earlier this offseason about how he's gonna move to about full-time edge rusher, and people are saying, oh, does he need to bulk up? Maybe like 5 pounds.
Yeah, why?
I don't really know for what. Just
Von Miller's been able to do it for a long time.
He led the league in pressures last year. I don't think he needs to change anything about who he is, except for never lining up off the ball again.
Watch him against the Giants, and he knifes inside and blows back a guard about 4 yards. Like, it's strength is not an issue with Micah Parsons.
Yeah. And I think about Micah Parsons, it's like, how big of the weight difference have to be for me to start being concerned, like, is him going against another players? Let's say a 360-pound offensive lineman. Like, I'm still taking Micah Parsons in the run game, let alone the pass game.
Yeah.
So I think he's one of the most unique talents in football, because I mean, the fact that he could even be like a C+ player off the ball. How many defensive ends are we even talking about in that breadth? And I know his rookie year, when they're still trying to figure stuff out with him, as far as like, what does this look like in our defense? What does this look like long term for him? There's still some wild plays that he's making in coverage just off the sheer athleticism that he has.
That Saints game when he covered the wheel like 20 yards down the left sideline, I was just like, this is insane. Like, he's arguably the best pass rusher in the league, and he can still do this shit. It's insane.
And he's also one of those guys where I still am having a hard time getting my brain around like pro day results being more acceptable than they were maybe about like 15 years ago. So when I see Micah Parsons, he ran a 4.3 at Penn State's pro day, I'm like, whatever, that's fake.
Fast track,
get out of here.
Yeah.
And then I see him play on an NFL field. I'm like, whoa. That's exactly what he ran.
Penn State might actually be legit. Like, the Penn State numbers might actually be legit if you look at some of the testing.
Chuck, I went through the same thing, because I remember he didn't have a crazy production in college, and so I watched him. I'm like, he's a freak, but we'll see. I was like 4.3. Okay, yeah, we'll see. It's probably more like a 4.5, and then sure enough, no, it's a 4.4 flat at the very least at 250 pounds. It's ridiculous.
I get so much stuff wrong. But I remember, Nate, when we talked about Micah Parsons heading into that draft, I said pretty confidently, I was like, he's best moving forward. Like, I don't understand why we're talking about him as an off-ball linebacker. Like, his pass rushing snaps, and when he's moving toward the quarterback, even coming from a linebacker's alignment, that's where he's best. That's what he should do. And then we found out that that's what he should do. He's just a pass rusher, and he's one of the most dominant in the league. Talking about the contract thing, though, mentioning, even if you threw it out, he'd probably be worth mentioning in this spot here. Over the next 3 years, he makes $4.6 million this year, $5.4 million next year, and then $18 million probably or so on the 3rd-year option. Okay, so that's like $29 million combined. That's how much Myles Garrett will make this season. That's actually kind of was the tiebreaker a little bit, because that's another guy that was on the short list for me. So it's unbelievable. I mean, beyond just being arguably the best pass rusher in the league already, and moving differently, the value you're getting from a guy who turns 24 today, when this podcast comes out, he will turn 24 years old, is just absolutely insane.